Let's get right into one of the most unbelievable stories in all of history. It's about a man who had absolutely no future, a guy literally running from a death sentence, who somehow ends up founding one of China's most legendary dynasties. Seriously, this story is going to flip your whole idea of what a hero is supposed to be. So, first things first, let's get a picture of the man we're talking about, Lu Gong. He was basically a nobody. He wasn't born into some fancy noble family. He came from peasant stock. There was not a single drop of royal blood in him. And he wasn't some kind of military genius either. This was an age of incredible generals, and Liu Bang? He just didn't really stand out. He wasn't the guy with the brilliant battlefield tactics. That wasn't his game. But what's maybe the most surprising thing is that he wasn't even ambitious. He had no grand vision of uniting the country or becoming some great leader. He was just a low-level official in the Qin dynasty, trying to do his job and get by. And that job, that's where everything went wrong. See, Liu Bang's assignment was to escort a bunch of prisoners to go work on the emperor's massive tomb. But on the journey, some of the prisoners escaped. A simple mistake, right? Well, that one mistake was about to change his life forever. To really get how bad this was, you have to understand Shenlaw. It was unbelievably harsh. Losing prisoners wasn't like getting a bad performance review. Nope. Under Qin law, failure to complete an official duty like this was an offense punishable by death. That's it. Game over. For losing those prisoners, Liu Bang was now a dead man walking. So he's stuck. What do? Option A, you obey the law, you go back to the capital, and you get executed. For sure. Option B, you break the law, let the rest of the prisoners go, and spend the rest of your life as a fugitive, always looking over your shoulder. Well, he chose to run. He released everyone else, fled into the mountains, and just like that, his old life was completely over. He had hit rock bottom. But here's the crazy thing. Just as Liu Bang's world was shrinking down to a tiny hideout in the mountains, the entire world around him was about to just explode. His personal crisis was on a collision course with a massive, empire-wide one. And it all started with another group of guys in a very similar situation. A couple of soldiers, Chen Sheng and Wu Guang, were late for a military deadline because of heavy flooding. And under Qin law, what do you think that meant? Yep, execution. So their logic was just brutally simple. If we're going to die anyway, why not die fighting? And that one small act of defiance, it was the spark that lit the whole empire on fire. And this, right here, is the key. This whole rebellion wasn't about some grand political idea. It was born out of pure, raw desperation. These men were basically gambling with lives that they had already lost. And that kind of desperation, well, that makes you incredibly dangerous to the people in charge. Okay, so picture this. The whole empire is collapsing into chaos. And for Liu Bang, our outlaw hiding in the mountains, this chaos suddenly looks like an opportunity. Back in his hometown, the local governor is absolutely terrified. He's seeing other officials getting killed left and right, and he decides his only shot at survival is to join the rebellion himself. But he needs some muscle. So his advisors come up with this crazy idea. Invite local outlaws like Liu Bang back to help lead the fight. After all, they've got followers, and they've got nothing left to lose. But then the governor starts to think, wait a minute. This Liu Bang guy, he's charismatic, he's a leader, and he's totally unpredictable. If I let him in the city, who's really going to be in charge here? And in a total moment of panic, he slams the city gate shut, locking Liu Bang out. This was Liu Bang's moment. He's locked out, his plan is ruined, but he doesn't give up. Instead, he shoots a message over the city walls on an arrow. And it's not a plea for help. It's a cold, hard choice for the people inside. He basically says, look around. Officials are dying everywhere. Stick with that guy, and you die with him. Get rid of him, and you live. He just turned the governor's own fear into a weapon. And the effect was instantaneous. The people inside the walls, they chose survival. They killed the governor and threw the gates open. And just like that, Liu Bang, the fugitive, walked back into his own hometown, not as a condemned criminal, but as its new leader. Now, this is so important. When it came time for the town to officially pick a leader for their little rebellion, all the other big shots, the prominent citizens, they all hesitated. Of course they did. They had families, businesses, property. They had futures to protect. But Liu Bang, he had nothing. He was already a dead man in the eyes of the law. For him, stepping up wasn't a risk, it was the only way he might survive. And that's really the whole idea of this story, boiled down. Liu Bang's incredible rise to power happened because two things lined up perfectly. You had the platform of the age, a collapsing empire, total chaos, a massive power vacuum. And then you had the platform of the person, a Dai with absolutely nothing left to lose, who was forced into a situation where the only choice was to lead. So you see, he wasn't some grand visionary who bent history to his will. Not at all. He was a survivor, swept up in a historical tidal wave that he could never have seen coming. And from that one desperate decision to lead a small-town rebellion, he rode that wave all the way to becoming the founding emperor of the legendary Han Dynasty. Which leaves us with this one last thought. It really makes you question our whole idea of greatness, doesn't it? Was Liu Bang really the master of his own destiny, or was he just a product of complete and utter chaos? And it makes you wonder just how many of history's greatest heroes were really just ordinary people who happened to be in the right place at the absolute worst time.